A warm welcome to this hour of news. Now, Iran has stepped up its war of words with the US, warning President Donald Trump that America could be in for, quote, dark days if it follows through with any threats against the country. In the past week, the US imposed new sanctions on Tehran over a recent missile test. In an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera, the advisor to the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said any assault by the US will be met with a harsh response from Iran and its allies.
We can assure everyone, and we say it with utmost confidence, that our policies in the region will not change. Iran will continue its policies based on friendship and good neighbourly ties, and therefore Trump and the American administration must get their act together and leave this region completely, because the people of this region feel alienated by their policies. Again, Iran would continue its policy as it was. We have no concern when it comes to the American threats, even if Trump decided to implement these threats, because we have the conviction that Washington does not dare to carry out its military threats against Iran. The Americans know very well that Iran and its allies in the region would retaliate very hard, and that would make America face dark days to come.
Joining us live from Washington, D.C. is Trita Parsi. He's the president of the National Iranian American Council. That's an advocacy organisation for Iranian Americans. Sir, a very warm welcome to the programme. Tell me, in your view, is there a difference of opinion within Iran itself between hardliners and moderates to the US and particularly to President Trump?
Well, there certainly was a distance within Iran prior to Trump coming in which many of the more reformist and centrist-minded politicians wanted to further explore opportunities to see if the U.S. and Iran could resolve their other issues. They wanted to explore to see if there was opportunities to collaborate against ISIS. I think with Trump coming in and doing this travel ban and then these threats against Iran, I think what you're seeing right now is that the Iranian political elite is unifying around a rather harsh line in response to Trump. Although thus far, despite this latest interview, as you saw with Mr. Velayati, the Iranians have been rather quiet, I think, calculating that Trump is doing more damage to the U.S. on his own. The more quiet the Iranians remain, the better off they may be.
And Trita, do you think that there could be a very real escalation of what right now seems to be a mixture of bluster and rhetoric between the two countries?
I certainly think there is a significant risk for that, for the very simple reason that the Trump administration began this escalation with that notice to Iran without first having established strong channels of communications with the Iranians. They had an opportunity to do so because a strong rapport did exist between the Iranian Foreign Minister Zarif and John Kerry that could have been handed over to Mr. Tillerson. Instead, we saw them choosing to come out with this notice prior to that, and that does worry me because at some point, I'm sure both sides would like to dial things down, but how do you do it when you can't communicate with the other side?
And Iran's missile program, just explain for us why it's important to the country to continue to pursue this.
Well, the Iranians learned a lesson during the Iraq-Iran war that not having these type of missiles puts them at significant risk. The Saddam Hussein regime was hitting Tehran with missiles, and he could hit Tehran from the most western point of Iraq because of the capacity and the technology that the Iraqis had. The Iranians did not have that technology, and for them to be able to retaliate, they had to be deep inside of Iraqi territory. Since then, they have significantly invested into this program as part of their deterrence. One thing that is needed to be kept in mind is that the Iranians are spending far less money, about 1/8 of what the Saudis are spending on arms and on military equipment. So instead, they have focused on technology of this kind. Now, the UN Security Council resolution calls on them not to carry out any more tests of missiles that are designed to be able to carry nuclear warheads. But the U.S. position that what the Iranians have done is a violation is not shared by the other UN Security Council members, precisely because of the fact that the language in that UN Security Council resolution only calls on them to do so. It doesn't forbid them. It doesn't say Iran shall not or must not.
Trita Parsi there joining me live from Washington, D.C. Sir, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.